Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Wednesday News Wrap, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake Botel, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the one and only Mr. Ben Reeve. How are you?
Mate, I'm feeling good. I've gone down to the cat shop this morning and I've got myself some nice new duds. So I'm feeling very nice. I'm good about it. And I'm really happy. I don't know if it comes across on camera, but it's that sort of off-white sort of color, these the little white hoops is here as well. So I was a bit concerned about that watching some of the photos that they've gone a little bit too white there, but this is looking very nice. The 1924 version of the retro Guernsey. I'm happy about that. How are you feeling?
I'm great. Not as good as I'd be feeling if I was togged out in one of those sweet, sweet retro fits. One year, the Cats should do a black and white throwback. I'm not talking black and white, but like grayscale. Go like sort of a dark gray instead of the navy. The off white. I saw someone. It was at Kingy who was tweeting about the black shorts, but basically go the full grayscale look. Like you're in a grey photograph. I think that would be excellent. And they should broadcast the game in black and white.
Can we wear pants as well? Didn't they used to do that?
Yes.
Playing very, very early. 150th retro round. 1854, something like that. 1855.
We're throwing it back. Partying like it's 1854. Let's get into it, Ben. The Wednesday News Wrap. Now, this one, normally a Patreon exclusive. This week, it's an early release for the Patreon subscribers. And the Patreon subscribers I'm talking about, of course, Stephen, Kiri, Duncan, Edward, Rachel, Matthew, Sam, Phil, Denzel, Jackie, Joey, Gad, Gerald, Jared, Joey, Josiah, Chad, Kieran, Jody, Liam, Steve, Jared, Morris, Cat, Space, and Ali.
All
those awesome people. All those people. But then it's also going up on YouTube for public folks to get a look and a listen at later this evening. So if you like what you see, make sure you sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew.
Are you going to go through all 1,200 subscribers as well, please? I don't know how long that'll take, but could you go through them too? Maybe another time.
If you've got an ambulance waiting to resuscitate me, roughly 50 names. All right, let's jump into it. We're going to start, as we always do, on the Wednesday News Wrap with our final thoughts, a chance to sort of just bask one more time in the result from the weekend. 20-point win over Collingwood. There's lots of angles we can attack here, Ben, from the media obsession with the Pies. I was saying to the chaps on the recap podcast on Monday night, the phrase was, and they begin the long climb back when Collingwood kicked the first goal of the last term. And I thought, let's settle down. It's an 11-point lead. Cats are third on the ladder. A lot of results went our way. We're on a 3-game winning streak. 200 wins at the MCG. I don't know. Where do you want to start, Ben? Where do you want to start on our final thoughts?
Well, I will say I'll probably say that I have to backtrack a little bit. A few weeks ago, Jake, it was all not looking good for the Cats after a big loss against Carlton, and I may have started the post-game live show with a bit of doom and gloom, the sky is falling kind of approach. So I've done a 180. I'll come around to the light side, the good side again, and I'm back on the Cats train. Look, it's good to beat the Catters. I'm wondering, though, if we get a little bit obsessed about the media obsession about Collingwood. Clearly, the media loves Collingwood, and we'll talk about Collingwood, whether they win or whether they lose. Apparently, Geelong played the other night too, and I don't know if you know that, Jake, but Geelong was playing. But sometimes I get a little bit obsessed about how the media is obsessing about Collingwood, and I just need to take myself out of the room sometimes or turn on K-Rock or something like that instead. It does my head in. But it was a good win, Jake. Great win. The Cats are back, definitely back. I am reversing on my position there. I'm back on board. Good to see the Cats have a nice win, and it was really fun, as I said before on Post Game Live. Really fun chatting with the fans after 3 wins in a row. All the fans were up and about on Friday night. That was lots of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there about the media obsession thing. Sometimes we do have to just chill out. I have to remember too that, everyone is sick of Geelong. That is
Yeah.
another factor in this. Everyone's sick of Geelong. It's why, no one's very excited when we win unless it's us, we as Cats fans get excited. No one else wants to see Geelong up and about. No one else is excited to see Ollie Dempsey, Lawson, Humphries, etc., breaking out and starting to look like the next gen because people are worried that they're just going to have to put up with us for another 15 years. So I get it. Look, at the end of the day, I should just block my ears and enjoy the four flags and, unrivaled amounts of success we've had since 2007 and maybe beyond this year as well. Something that stuck out to me again was just Geelong's ability. We talked last week on the Wednesday news wrap about how much we think Chris Scott loves the challenge of um, solving the puzzle. And you just look at every area on the ground that Geelong had problems, and they've taken problem players out of those areas, patched them into problem areas on the field, and suddenly it's fixed. And, specifically looking at, you take Tom Stewart, who was being tagged out of the game from the back line. You take Sam DeConing, who was not having his best year. You plug both of those guys into the midfield. Suddenly the back line looks a lot better. Oh, and you've fixed the stoppage problem. Like, I know everyone focused on the uncontested marks and the uncontested possession the Cats racked up in the Pies game. I think we smashed them at the centre bounces, which was a major issue a few weeks ago. And that sort of got lost in the wash a bit, I thought.
It's amazing what happens when you get a player like Patrick Dangerfield back, and what that does to your side.
Definitely.
And you bring in some young fellas like a Lawson, Humphries, and injects a bit of energy into the squad as well. So look, the coaches, I think we don't give the coaches enough credit. I think between games and through a season, I think they coach really, really well. Chris is probably on par, and maybe people will disagree with me, but I think he's probably on par with a few other coaches in game coaching. But between games and throughout a season, Chris knows exactly, and the coaches know exactly what they're doing. They're the top of the tree as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with that very much at all. I thought it was interesting, and this has just been my closing thought on final thoughts for the weekend. First Use, great YouTube channel that Sambo has put me on to, breaking down all the stoppage work week to week. Definitely going to be diving into it over the offseason when I get a bit more time. But he did a great breakdown of Tom Stewart as the sweeper at stoppages. And he was talking specifically about how much space Tom Stewart was giving himself so that he could attack the ball or attack the player that was going to get the ball. And it made me think they've used his instinct as an intercept defender, his ability to read the game, and just said, can you go and do this and apply it on a slightly smaller scale at the stoppage? You're not defending the 50, we're basically asking you to read the center bounce or the bounce at the stoppage. I just thought that was very clever, taking a player's skill set and sort of rejigging it, his instincts for the game and putting him in that role at stoppages. I would highly recommend people go and have a look at that video on YouTube, First Use, and it was Stewart as the stoppage sweeper. It was very, very interesting stuff.
Can I give a little shout out as well?
Please.
I had the lovely people, Rick and Millie from Hoops, there it is, podcast, to come on Post Game Live the other night. If you haven't checked out their podcast, all good podcasting sources, check those ones out. They're a different vibe to us, but I really enjoy listening to them. They've got a lot of energy and great chemistry. Father and daughter team. We're not affiliated, but we share a similar name. But they're a new addition to the podcasting world. So thanks to them for coming on the show the other night.
Awesome. Yeah, I did see them interviewed. That's good stuff. All right, let's put last weekend in the bag. We'll move on, sort of a little bit tacked on to last week, is rising star Lawson Humphries. The people have heard me go on and on about Lawson Humphries if they've been listening to my VFL coverage, Ben. So instead, I'm going to hand pass to you, give you the platform. Lawson Humphries, how vindicated are you feeling
I'm feeling very vindicated because I don't watch as much of AFL as you. And if anyone knows who's up and coming, who are these young kids going to make their move pretty soon, it's you, because you watch every single game, whether it's live or on repeat, and you analyse it, pick it to death. But yeah, Lawson Humphries stood out to me very early on, just the way he used the ball. And I think he could be someone that throw him at AFL level and he'll just take off. He might not work as well at a VFL level, even though he was going really well. But I think he's going to be even better at AFL level. He's going to fit in quite nicely. He had to wait his time, like all players do. They've got to just be patient and hopefully string enough good games together. But he's been patient and he's taken the opportunity, which we love to see, Jake. So I'm really happy for him. The only downside, really, is that we kind of thought we might have been able to have a chat with him this week, but then he went and got Rising Star, and now he's had to do all this other media. So, so we're probably will have a chat with him at some stage, but it might not be this week, which is fair enough too, because all the mainstream media want a piece of him at the moment.
If anyone knows who we have to bribe to get AFL media accreditation, just slip us a DM, please. You ran a Twitter poll, Ben, on the Hoops Crew, and people should jump on and follow the Hoops Crew on Twitter because, tweet some good stuff. And this one was, has the development of Geelong's Kittens given you more hope for the future? What were the results there, Ben? What was the temperature?
Well, Jake, a bit like me, everyone's turned and we're back on the Cats again. So 36% of us said premierships are on the way. So that's very, very confident. Almost one, or I've more than 1 in 3. And 51% are saying we're still a force. So that to me reads top 4, top 5 or thereabouts. Definitely finals for the foreseeable future. About 13% say no. The dip is still going to come. We're still on the way. 13%. So that was broken up into 9% dips coming and 4% we're about to fall off a cliff. So there's a couple of people that absolutely are not convinced. A bit concerned maybe about the likes of Jezza and Blitzarves and Stewart, and Danger, all parting our shores in the next 24 to 36 months potentially, maybe sooner for some, who knows. But that was interesting. I was it hasn't been the vibe over maybe a month ago. That I think if we ran that poll a month back, it would have been very different. But 3 wins in a row with a couple of young guys coming through, and Max Holmes, we don't even think about as a 21 or 22-year-old, but we often forget about him and Brian Myers. We've got the future's looking bright, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that's important to think about with like the Jezza Camerons, Dangerfields, etc., who were brought to the club, via trade, etc. A thing that you have to keep doing in order to keep getting those players is win. Players want to come to Geelong, not just because it's Geelong, because Geelong is synonymous with winning in the 21st century. So the moment that drops off, if we have I reckon if you had 2 seasons back to back where you lose more games than you win, I think you would start to see an erosion of players, high-end players wanting to join. And if you have 3 years like that in a row, then it could all fall in a heap. But I think that's why what we're doing is so important. You keep winning, players will want to keep coming. Players will want to keep coming and taking pay cuts to not only stay, but to arrive at the club. So, yeah, I voted yes, more premierships for the record. And look, I was still probably in that camp a couple of weeks ago. I just think that the groundwork is being laid. Yes, there's areas that we still need to fix up, but I think the Cats have a track record across the best part of 20 years of addressing the needs.
You just got to back them in.
Speaking of addressing the need, yep. Speaking of addressing needs, contract watch.
Colin.
Contract watch.
Thanks, Colin.
What a legend, Colin. Yeah. Keep sleeping it off, mate. All right. So contract work. Watch SDK. Still no smoke out the chimney. We've got no contract extension news here. Now you said what did you say last week? Where were you at? Were you at 75% confident that he'd resign?
Yeah, every win makes you a little bit more confident. Maybe we take that up to 75 now, Jake. I reckon. Yep. 75.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm in the same sort of range, 75 to 80% confident he'll re-sign. Patrick Dangerfield, keen for 2 more years, Ben. What are your thoughts on this one?
It's a week for week thing for me. I keep thinking, oh, is this the game that Paddy tears the hammy off the bone? Because he's just forgotten about pulling back a little bit. You know how we talked a few weeks ago about him, or he was saying he's just got to change his style a little bit. You know, he's got to look after his body. But I just worry if he does that hammy again and then misses another patch. I think he'll probably play next year. I think he's keeping the door open for maybe another year beyond that into 2026. But expect to see Paddy captain the Cats at least in 2025, and we'll see how he's feeling towards the end of the year. I think he might sneakily want to get to that 400 if he can. It's a long way off it, Jake. A very, very long way off it. But he might be playing 3 more games in September, hopefully. So we'll see. That might be nice to add to his tally as well.
Definitely. And of course, the last one is a player that might be coming to the Cats, maybe.
Jungle drums are beating, Jake. You hear them?
All through the AFL insider world, it's just people, sending up smoke flares, things being passed along grapevines. Bailey Smith, it's, he's going to be a cat. He's going to be a cat. How confident are you on this? What do you reckon? What's a percentage? Yep. Put it at a percentage for us.
Well, I think it changes if Geelong goes on and makes a grand final. I don't know what the current draft situation is. I think we're probably entitled to pick 16 or something in the draft. Last week it was pick 14, so it's getting worse and worse as it goes. If we finish very high this season and we get our draft pick gets a bit, we might get draft pick 18 or draft pick 17 or something like that. It makes it a little bit harder to trade for a Bailey Smith. We might have to be very, very creative. We'll see how we go, but I think it's still looking likely. I think Geelong will still get it done. Hawthorn is still out there, I suppose, and I think they probably are becoming one of those destination clubs again. The jury was out on them last year, I think. They were definitely an improving side, but I think Hawthorn's shown this year that they're definitely on their way up, and almost everyone will have them as a finals team next year. I'm sure of that. I can't even, these words are coming out of my mouth, Jake, and it's making me sick. So please take over. But what do you think? How are you feeling about Bailey Smith? Please don't talk more about Hawthorn. We've done enough on Hawthorn.
Well, Sam said he's happy for Bailey Smith to come to the club, provided he gets a haircut. I'd be in agreement there. No mullets at the Cats. Sorry. You can have long hair, the Cats, just not a mullet. He just needs to grow that top part out and whack a headband on. He's fine. He'll fit right in.
All shaving heads. They're all shaving. There's a long hair brigade and there's a shaved head brigade. I've joined that brigade. You Jai Clark and Oisin Mullins and Ted Close. He's just gone the full Mach 3 razor job. He's just taken the whole thing out. I did
think after I saw you with the clippered head, I did wonder if at some point I might see you using it as an elaborate ruse to slip onto the field to attend a centre bounce, maybe, just slip out there in place of, Tom Atkins or Jai Clark.
I've been in heavy training, 30-minute walk around Kardinia Park today, so I'm ready to go, Jake. Anytime the club wants me out there, I'm ready to go.
The extra Ks in the legs, they're building the training load. They're confident. Be Reeve in time for September.
Rising star first game. No doubt.
That's right. Memberships. How good is this? 85,163. It keeps going up.
Up and up and up. Got to get a full stadium though soon, don't we? Though 85,000. Where are you? Come to the game, please. On Saturday evening against the Bulldogs. I'm jumping the gun a little bit there, but yeah, let's get it. Let's get at least 38,000 if we can. But it is good to see. It's good for the club's coffers to get a bit of membership money in there. Yes, it's getting a little pricey. I'm going to acknowledge that because there'll be some fans watching this show that maybe can't get to those games, and it is a little bit hard on the pocket. But if you can get it for a couple of games a year, support the club, that'd be great.
Yes, agree with all of that. Now, we need to talk about one of the hottest stories in the AFL at the moment, unfolding at the Cattery.
Yeah, the chess championship. So apparently, Jake, the players led by Blitzarves and Zachary Tui, they're very into their chess around the club at the moment. There's about 24 players that are in this sort of bracket style competition. They're all competing against each other. Apparently, there's a waiting list to get into this as well. Chess is really taken over. The Mrs. Blitzarves or Blitzarves' mum, Mark's mum, I should say, is apparently a supplier of the chess boards, and there's one up for grabs or something like that for the winner of the comp. Anyway, it's interesting. I wonder whether this is really having an impact on this 3-game winning streak. Maybe this is the answer. Get all the boys playing a bit of chess. I'm tempted to head down to Mind Games or wherever they sell chess boards these days and pick one up myself. My stepson's into that kind of stuff, so I might get a Lord of the Rings chess set or maybe the Geelong Football Club. This is a great idea, Jake, and I should actually ring the club and talk about this. How about we get 24 Geelong players, at best 24, and we get them made into little chess minifigures, and we get maybe you get Hawthorn, Cats versus Hawthorn in a chessboard. Winner, absolute winning idea right there. I've just thought of it on the spot. Thank you very much.
Yes, no, I love that. I love that idea. Just quickly, what chess piece, like what's an instant fit, do you think, player for chess piece? Is it like the obvious, like is Dangerfield, our you can't really make Dangerfield the king. He's too mobile for that.
That's Sam De Koning is the king. That's an easy one right there.
Of course. I'm thinking Ollie Dempsey. Like I don't even know my chess pieces, I've got to say. What are the ones that move diagonally? What do they call? Are they a horse or something? Or no, they're not there.
I reckon I'd go Gary Rowan, the Horse Lord from Lord of the Rings. Gary's got to be a horse for sure. Tom Hawkins, don't get me wrong, Tom, I love you, but you've got to be a pawn because you can't move sideways. You can only move forwards at the moment. So he's only one. He's lost his lateral movement in his old age, so he's no good. I don't know. Gary Rowan, maybe a bishop. I don't know. Let us know in the comments, guys. We want to know what positions you'd have on a chessboard. Who's the queen? I don't know who the queen would be. Probably Claudia Gunjaka. I think I might have asked that question before. We can mix it up, can't we? We can have some AFLW players in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be a guy, doesn't have to be. We're non-gender here. Doesn't really matter. So take your pick.
We could. Well, I mean, there's the real marketing ploy. You can sell 2 sets too. So sell an AFL men's one, AFL women's. We're covered.
And I'm sure you'd snap up the VFL. You'd snap up the VFL version as soon as it hit the stores, Jake. I know you would.
I'd put that on pre-order. Where do we take my $50 now? No, I think this is great. The rest of the AFL might be playing checkers, but we're playing chess. That's how the saying goes, isn't it? Joe Furphy. We go from playing chess to playing basketball. Joe Furphy's 19-year-old brother drafted 35th by the Indiana Pacers. 18 points in an NBA Summer League game. Now, I'll admit here, I know what I don't know, and I do not know basically anything about the NBA. Like I can say, I know that Michael Jordan was a very good basketball player, but that's about where my knowledge ends, Ben. So I'm going to hand pass to you here and let you take this free throw.
All right, thank you. Well, there you go. That's very good. I'll give you that one. Well, I don't know much about little Johnny. I don't know if they call him Little Johnny. He's probably about 6'8", but no, he's a little brother of Joe Furphy. He was drafted to the Pacers, who are a pretty good side at the moment, and he's going okay in a few summer warm-up games or pracky matches or match sims or whatever the equivalent in the AFL is. But Joe was a pretty good basketballer himself. Joe's one of our Cat B rookies. Who, if you watch a bit of VFL, he'll run around there and his big bushy mustache and he up and down on the wing there. He gets around pretty quick. We love Joe. Hopefully, we'll see Joe on the list again next year and maybe a game in 2025. We'll see how we go. But Jake, I won't stay on the basketball stuff too long because I know that's not your repertoire, your skill set. But it's very good to see a brother of, and we've got a few siblings of that are playing at a high level in basketball. I think Sarah Blitzarves plays for the Australian team or has played some games for the Australian team as well in the women's comp. So, but let's move on. Let's move on from the basketball. well done, Joe Furphy and little Johnny. We'll go with little Johnny Furphy.
Little Johnny Furphy.
That's how Johnny.
All right. From banter about basketball to a slightly more sobering news story. Gary Ablett Sr. Now this is the first time this is crossing my news desk, Ben.
I don't know how much
from the
to
news.
trust this one.
Okay. Well, will we just leave it off?
I don't know. Do we trust Yahoo 7 as a major newsbreaker? Probably not. Maybe we'll leave it off. Maybe if people want to find out some information about Gary Ablett Sr., go to the trusted news service at Yahoo 7, and maybe there'll be some information there.
Yeah, if Yahoo 7 is your go-to for news, then all you got to do is head on over and punch Gary Ablett Senior into the old search engine. But birthdays, we can celebrate those.
Happy birthday to you.
Yes, we can. Tom Hawkins,
3.
Big Tomahawk, 3 birthdays. We'll start with Tom because he's congratulations. Tom turned 43 this week, or about to turn 43. So we'll round about. I think he might be more like 36 or something like that. But he's still with us, Tom. We love you. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll see you for another season, but we'll see. He might be winding it up a little bit, but congratulations to Tom. He's a good bloke. I didn't talk to him today, but I did see him down at the club, and he sounds exactly like the person that you see on the TV. He seems like the most genuine bloke. He's just chatting away to people, and he's just a normal guy. So congrats to him. Jai Clark as well. I don't know how. He's probably turning like 13 or something like that. So happy birthday, Jai Clark. And you know what, Jake? I felt really bad last week when we did the birthdays because I shouldn't do this, but I actually forgot that we had an AFLW team as well. So happy birthday to Jackie Parry. And if I've forgotten anyone else, please come at me in the comments. I'm actually struggling to find all the date of births for the AFLW players. So I did have to do a little bit of research to find that. So lots of love to Jackie, Jai, and Tom.
Just imagining you down at the Geelong Library pouring through like family history record books trying to find the births, deaths, and marriages. Where is it? When was Jacqueline Parry born? Yeah, Gandalf with a candle,
Gandalf.
Dusty tones.
Was
Yeah.
the year 34, 54.
Yeah. Jacqueline Parry too, because we're going to be getting into our AFLW coverage in the very, very near future. Was on, I don't know, I can't remember exactly if we named her as such in the chaps, but one of, if not the most improved players on Geelong's list last year. Her leading and marking around the ground, being that link tall to help present a target to link up the attack was exceptional. Her work rate, and then just her knack for kicking goals. I think she had career high in goals. She was exceptional. So yeah, just sort of foreshadowing a bit of AFLW coverage to come soon. She's an absolute gun, Jackie Parry. Let's go to our next opponent in the AFL men's comp. We've got the Bulldogs, who are currently 10th on the ladder, as we said, but going in to take on the Pies. The ladder positioning doesn't mean a whole lot at the moment, given what a logjam it is from about 12th, 13th through to 2nd and 3rd on the ladder. It's a lot closer than ladder positioning would suggest. Saturday night at Kardinia Park, it's retro round. Speaking of rewinding, the last time we played them, it was the Cats by 4 points in round 4 at Adelaide Oval. Stengel booted 4. Treloar, Bont, and Libba had a mountain of the footy. Dogs have won 3 of their last 4. How are you feeling going into this game, Ben?
Well, I must say I got it wrong. I was saying on Post Game Live the other night, I've got a few things wrong lately, Jake, but I was saying the Dogs never beat us at home. Last time they played us at home, they beat us. So I'd conveniently forgotten about that. I feel like that was a farewell game or it might have been an end of season game, something like for Isaac Smith or something like that. It could have been his last game, and Sam Menengola played, and both of those had about 1,000 possessions in that game as well. So we did lose that game. We were competitive at one stage, but yeah, we did lose. I'm writing that one off though. I'm not counting that. It was a farewell game to a few players. We had a bunch of stars in Cottonwool, Jeremy Cameron, Mark Blitzarves, and probably a couple others I've forgotten as well. So this Cats team is flying at the moment. Look, the Doggies are as well. As you said, 3 out of 4. But I think Geelong's looking pretty good for this one. Back at home, you'd think we'd win this one comfortably. I'm going to say, and when I say comfortably, I'm going to say by 5 goals, I think. With Treloar not playing or not likely to play, I'm guessing. We've still got to worry about a couple other guns in Bontempelli and Liberatore, some absolute stars, but I'm backing our midfield there. I don't think we threw Tom Stewart through the midfield last time, so let's see how Bontempelli goes with the might of Tom Stewart running amok in the middle of the ground.
I'm very keen to get another go at a few teams. Not so much the Dogs. It's here nor there. Not relishing the idea of playing them, but also not terrified of it either. Carlton is one that comes to mind. I want another go at Carlton with Danger and Stewart in the midfield together. Lawson, Humphries down back. It was such an obvious place that we got pushed around on the ball, and I just don't think that will happen if we go into a game against Carlton with the current midfield setup. I think we've worked a few issues out there. The Dogs, I think they are going to be... This is a really important game for them. I think if they lose, their finals chances are, going to be rapidly running out. So I think they're going to be fired up. I think they will take some confidence from beating what was pretty much a VFL side down at Cardinia Park last year, but ultimately, it's always nice to experience a win in enemy conditions. If the Cats win this by what you're saying, by 30 points, that is another massive sort of blow to the competition's idea that Geelong are cooked, because they will have now comfortably handled 4 opponents in a row that are all, there or thereabouts competing for finals and even top 4. And it would sort of take me back to days of like 2007, 2009, where it'd be like, oh, Geelong up against a, fellow contender. They won by 40 points. I just remember so many games like that where it's like, the Cats are going to be really tested tonight. And it was a game for a bit, and then Geelong just made that decisive move. So I'm fascinated to see how it unfolds. Now, the Dogs had a player in the 2s. I can't remember, was it Gallagher or Garcia who had...
Garcia, I think you might be thinking about, yeah.
The one, mountain of footy, 17 tackles, bunch of clearances. I'll be interested to see if he comes in. But, yeah, I think it's another good test, whether Treloar plays or not, for our midfield reconfiguration. I think we'll win. I think it might be a little closer than 5 goals, but look, I'd take 5 goals now if you offer it to me. Let's talk some injuries here, Ben. Yeah. Still got that sounds. The wound is beginning to smell of almonds. Tanner Bruin still out with a scaphoid, whatever it is, test. I'm not a doctor, I'm a podcast bozo. Ollie Wiltshire, pelvis injury, still 2 weeks away. Cam Guthrie, Achilles, still out for 3 weeks. Sam will appreciate that one. A nice little Troy reference there. Tom Hawkins, foot injury, 3 to 5 weeks for Tommy Hawkins. Race against time. Tom against time. That was the Tom Brady documentary from a few years ago. It's a bit like that with Tommy Hawkins now. Tom versus time. 3 to 5 weeks. Mitch Edwards, back injury to be confirmed, but oh boy. Toby Conway, foot out for the season. What are your thoughts on that one, Ben?
My heart breaks for him. 3rd year at the club. This was the year. It wasn't all chips in, but this was the year that he and his family and his friends and all the fans and the club and everyone in the world thought, all right, it's time. Let's get 15, 18 games into the guy, have him cherry ripe for 2025. But unfortunately, he's been held back with a mix of injuries, probably it's fair to say, and And the latest one, the navicular, I think it is, they're saying, is going to hold him out until the start of 2025. Now, that's great if you think of it, okay, well, he's ready to go round one. But does that mean he doesn't really have much of a preseason? Is he maybe going to spend half the year in the VFL? I don't know what Reece Stanley's thinking, but maybe Reece, if you want to hang on for one more year, if you're up to it. I don't know if all the fans will agree with that, but we're a little bit short in ruck stocks, and Mitch Edwards is probably another, a bit like Toby, that just can't quite get the body right just yet. But you don't want to load these blokes up, these young guys up too much, especially the big guys. They're still growing and they're still filling out their bodies and so forth. So you can't just throw them in the muscle room every day for 2 years. You've got to just let them put on that muscle naturally and let them the natural growing sort of finish. Otherwise, it can do some more damage. As much as I think Toby Conway is the future, I think we seriously probably need to look at some ruck options in the draft and in trade week. And if that means we've got to look outside of someone like a Bailey Smith, I think that's something we could think about. Look, it's not. I'm probably more on the coach's side here in that they don't seem to rate rucks really highly. I think and that might just be because we don't have the rucks and we've had to sort of be creative in that space. Stanley's a premiership ruckman, but he's clearly sort of just tailed off a little bit. But Toby Conway's, could be the future, but he's not quite there yet, and probably hasn't sort of cemented himself as a future star just yet. We've seen glimpses of what he could be, but we need to see 50 games of really solid footy from him. So I think the Cats probably need to look at it. I feel so bad for Toby Conway. I just feel like there seems to be like a player at every club, sometimes more than one, that just really struggle to get on the park. And we went through this maybe 10 years ago with the Nathan Vardy. He was meant to be the future and ended up losing him to West Coast, and I think he won a premiership with them. So hopefully Toby gets his body right and does all the right things in rehab and in his recovery, and doesn't rush himself back and gets it right, and then has an early good run at it from season 25 onwards.
Yeah, I think this is the smart option, to be honest. Like, just shelve it and have a proper crack in 2025. Like, I just think that the danger of, regardless of the injury, I guess, I like the approach of just get it right. It's like the Cats management of Dangerfield the last few seasons. Just get it right, get them right. And if that means, I tend to view the Cats too as like, it's a long process building to a flag, and every season is a step towards it, whether you win one that year or not. Like, you are building every season. It's not just every game, but every season is another step, hopefully in the right direction. And sometimes for players, they have to take a step back before they can take their steps forward. And I think Conway is just one of those players. It's a bit like Mitch Nevitt. Everyone's like, he's got to be in the side now. He's got to be in the side now. No, sometimes they need longer. Sometimes they need to cook a little bit longer in the VFL. We've got to be patient. And, I trust that they're doing, the right thing by the players with the decisions that they make. But that leads us, I suppose, to talk about players who might be in the mix for this week. A list of players here. I like this list, Ben, that you've put together here. Brandon Parfitt had a ripping game in the VFL on the weekend. Mark O'Connor, Reece Stanley. Reece Stanley was in my votes.
He played well.
Someone reminded me, someone said, all the players you've given votes to, well, they're good VFL players. It's like, well, they are playing in the VFL, and that's where I'm giving them votes. So it sort of checks out, doesn't it? Reece Stanley played well. O'Sheen Mullen, a quiet game for O'Sheen, actually. After back-to-back weeks having 20-plus touches, I wouldn't have said it was because he played badly. Just probably the ball didn't find his area of the field as much, particularly in the second half. Mitch Nevitt, Connor O'Sullivan, Ted Closey, Mitch Hardy, James Willis, George Stevens, Jed Buse, Phoenix Foster. Is there a name or two there, Ben, that you think are likely to come in, or do you think it's more than likely we go in mostly unchanged?
Oh, interesting. Should we go for clicks and say Mitch Hardy? we could. It's not looking good
Definitely
for Mitch, unfortunately. We all love him and we love what he's doing at VFL level, but it doesn't seem like those opportunities are going to come, especially with 6 games to go in the regular season. The West Coast game, I mean, I think we'd probably play all the VFL players in the West Coast game at round 24 if we could, but that's not going to happen either. So hopefully we see a debut from a young player there. But it feels like the train has sailed. Left the station. The ship has sailed. I would love to see a bloke get rewarded for a nice block of footy over the last month. Ted Closey, I'm loving what I'm seeing there. I'm a big fan of James Willis, some players that haven't debuted before. But who do I think genuinely will come in? I don't think we'll see a debutant this week. I think we'll probably see either a Brandon Parfitt or a Mark O'Connor come back. Marco seems to find his way back in every now and then. So potentially a more senior player like a Tui or a Duncan has a bit of a rest, and I can see someone coming in to fill that for a week or two. But I don't know. What do you think of that group of players? Do you feel like there's a young guy that's going to get a chance, or do you feel like it's we're going to maybe go with a depth player, like an older boy who's spending a bit of time in the VFL at the moment?
I don't think we'll get a debut this week. So that rules out Willis, Evans, Foster, Closey, Hardy. I don't think Connor O'Sullivan's quite up for it yet. Physically, I would say. I think maybe you could get away with playing him against West Coast or against North, if you really felt like you had the ability to put, guys out there just to get a taste. I think O'Sullivan's going to have to just bulk up just that little bit more. And who knows, some guys can do it in the space of, an extra off season. So we might see a lot more of him next year. I think Buse is really interesting. I don't think his body will probably hold up to the rigors of AFL footy for an extended stint, but I guess if they thought there was a role he could come in and play. We did an exercise on the chaps on the recap pod. I don't know if you listened, but we went through the list. We went through the selected team from last week against the Pies, and we did, are they undroppable or droppable? And the idea was every player in the list, if they're not injured, so this didn't include injury. This was basically saying between now and the end of the season, even if they had a bit of a dip in form, are they undroppable or are they droppable? And on the undroppable list, we had Brian Myers, Max Holmes, Tom Stewart, Ollie Dempsey, Tyson Stengel, Jack Henry, Jake Kolodjasny, Zach Guthrie, Patrick Dangerfield, Brad Close, Jeremy Cameron, Mark Blixarves, and Sam De Koning and Tom Atkins. We think that all of those guys are pretty much undroppable in terms of likelihood that they would get dropped. We feel like they will keep being picked regardless of if they have a little dip in form. Droppable players, we think that if they had a dip in form or the team had a dip in form, that could find themselves even just for a week on the sidelines. Jack Bowes and Lawson Humphries. Now, those guys were the ones that we thought were most on the bubble, that they could probably almost, they're right there at being players that will get picked every week. Mitch Duncan, Zach Tui, Jai Clark, Sean Manor, Shannon Neal, Gary Rowan, and Ollie Henry. I think Jai Clark could potentially be in for just a rest, a one game off, but they seem pretty happy to keep picking him. Is there anything in there that sparks your interest? Anyone who you think could come out for a rest, even this week?
Are we managing young players or are we omitting young players? That's been my big thing this year. The senior blokes get managed and the young blokes get omitted. Look, there's a bit of tension in the Hoops household at the moment with Mrs. Hoops and I not agreeing on Tom Atkins, and I'm glad you sort of mentioned him as an undroppable. Well, I'm not glad. I'm glad you brought it up at least, because I instantly went, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd have him in the undroppables. I clearly don't see what the coaches and his teammates see he's doing, and probably to a point you guys as well, because you analyse the game probably more than anyone in the Hoops crew. But I think he probably could be in that other group that, if everyone's up and firing, Tanner Bruin's putting his hand up soon. If not this week, he could be coming back. And, I just don't know. Maybe he's offering things that I can't see. I will keep my eyes open. I'm going to watch I'm going to watch him very, very closely. I wish I had a microphone. I wish he had a microphone and I could just listen to all the things he's doing and follow him through the week at the club and listen to all the instructions that he's getting and see how well he executes that. Because clearly there's things that I'm not seeing with Tom Atkins that his coaches and teammates are seeing there. But that's an interesting exercise there. I'm going to give that some more thought and come back to you on that one, Jake. But interested to hear what people in the comments have got to say about that as well. Who are your droppables and non-droppables or undroppables? I won't say that 10 times fast.
That's right. It was an interesting one. And you got to consider roles and that sort of thing. Like, I think, honestly, if Gary Rowan wasn't healthy at the moment, I think James Willis could have been in line to have a go. If we were missing both Hawkins and Rowan, I think Willis could have found himself tapped for a debut. I think if someone like Atkins was injured, I think Brandon Parfitt would slot back in. Or maybe Ted Closey would have got to go. Someone who's a bit more of a hard contested player. If we lose one of those guys, like an Atkins, they might have got to jump. But at the moment, the only one I think could be likely, and I know people will be angry about this, I think there's a chance that Reece Stanley gets back into the AFL team to take on Tim English and company. That's okay. People are allowed to be angry at it.
If you're still with us, people, listen to Jake. Let him explain. People may have disconnected. They pulled their plug out of the modem by now.
Yeah, that's right. There's an absolute flip happening. Look, I shouldn't say I'm not for or against it. It's more just going, I could see a world in which it happens. I'm really happy for them to keep persisting with the Sam de Koning, Mark Blixarves thing. I don't think that the hitouts mean that much. We analysed a bit on the chaps. 62 hitouts for the Pies and like 22 for the Cats. And the Cats, I think the Pies had, 14 hitouts to advantage out of their 62, and they lost the clearances. I just don't think it means that much. I think what means more is having a ruckman that can impact the game in all other phases. And I think Sam de Koning and Blixarves both do that in spades. So, yeah, I think we're more than likely going in mostly unchanged. Maybe one, maybe two tactical moves if they're thinking that, there's something there that they can do. But, Tom Atkins has been doing a bit of tagging recently and actually kept Dacos to a pretty quiet second half. So, is there a need to bring back a Mark O'Connor or, Oisin Mullen is one that I've thought could be a really good athletic tag, to go with, Horn Francis types who are more explosive than what I would back O'Connor to stay with. Mullen sort of has the athleticism to go and do that job and neutralize what they can do athletically. So, yeah,
I think Well, before you jump ahead, I think everyone just needs to check out the chaps on Thursday nights because you usually drop that around about the time the teams drop. I think you go live, or not live, but I think you record about 8 o'clock. So if you haven't checked out the chaps, they'll talk about all the ins and outs on Thursday night, and have some good discussion about who's been left out of the side, who comes into the side, all that sort of stuff. So I always look forward to that on a Thursday evening. Or Spotify or YouTube or wherever you get your Hoops Crew content.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, love doing the preview show. Couple of things to hit before we close out the news. I probably could have led this with the in the mix phase, I suppose, but the VFL men, they had a 29-point win over Collingwood in the VFL. Up to third on the ladder, 11-6 record. Oh, funny, the symmetry, isn't it? Brandon Parfitt, 36 touches, 9 clearances. Mitch Hardy, 27 touches, 2 goals. They also take on the Bulldogs this weekend. It's third v second on Saturday, 3:40 p.m. down at Cardinia Park. So I'd say get along to that because it could be a high-quality game of VFL footy.
I'm thinking about it myself. I probably won't get to the game I might get there at 3:40 if I can find the time to get along. I'll probably watch I'll probably watch the first half and then come back, go home and do a couple of things and then come back again for the senior team. But it's a good opportunity. Two good teams at the top of their game playing at GMHBA. there's a lot of young guys coming through. If you're one of those types of Cats fans that says play the kids, well, you've got no better opportunity to watch them this Saturday in a doubleheader. So try and check it out if you can. But I'm sure it'll be on streaming as well on the AFL website and all that. And you'll have your VCAP, your VCAP, your VFL recap show, and your preview show before that as well. So check that one out, everyone.
Absolutely. I'll also be live tweeting as I watch. So from 3:40 on Chaps Chat Cats Twitter. I provide score updates, but I also just unload any sort of thoughts and analysis I have as we go about how I think players are doing and developing. So that's a good spot there, and always happy if people have questions too. As Ben said, I've been watching. I've pretty much watched every one of the VFL men's Cats games and the women's the last couple of seasons. So I'm always happy. I'm no expert, but I have watched a lot. And so always happy to answer people's questions if they want to know, how's Phoenix Foster tracking, or, what do I like or not like about George Stevens, etc.
Who's that bloke wearing number 87? All that sort of stuff.
That's right. Exactly.
That top-up player from Geelong West.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's move on to our final section, which is the AFLW. It's not long now until this season gets underway. There's 2 warm-up matches. The match sim against Collingwood on Saturday, the 10th of August down at Kardinia Park. We are, 3 weeks away. Practice match against Essendon, Saturday, the 17th of August at Windy Hill. I really need to get on to my prep work for the podcasts. Entry is free for the Bombers game. There'll be a live stream on the club website. Round 1, the season proper, starts Saturday, the 31st of August at Kardinia Park. Oh, boy. Couple of topics to spin off this. Were you excited for this year, Ben?
I'm still angry about the prelim. Can you believe it? Getting ripped off in that prelim against Brisbane. We should have been in the grand final, Jake. And hopefully that the girls are still pissed off as well. It didn't end the way we wanted, but bring on round 1, I say. Bring on the match sim too. I'm keen to check out the girls and see some of the new girls running around as well that haven't played, and maybe some of the girls that haven't had a chance at AFLW level have been sort of doing their bit at the VFL level for a while now, and maybe this is their year to take that next step as well. So we've lost Erin Hoare, sadly. Not sadly, but she's retired. So congratulations to her and for the next phase of her life. We've got some new players in, so we'll check them out in a few weeks' time. That'll be exciting. But we're not far away, Jake.
Absolutely. And a couple of little things. The Girls, Season 2, Cats podcast, Claudia Gunjaka, Becky Webster, Georgie Rankin. Always good for a listen. That'll be in your ears again. Presumably on Spotify, etc.
Can I just say,
yes.
I was at the club this morning. I was getting a coffee, and I had to buy my dad's my new retro Guernsey, and I'm walking out, and who's holding the door open for me? Georgie Rankin. Oh, what a star! What an absolute legend. She was on her phone chatting away to someone, but she saw me walking out. She's like, "I'll hold the door open for you," and I was like, "Oh, what a good club we have! Good people at this club."
Just good.
It's a little things. It's retro rounds. We're doing the old-fashioned stuff all over again. We're holding the doors open for people. You love to see
it. Absolutely. You absolutely do. The final thing, it's not so retro. This is a bit futuristic. Ball tracking to be introduced, Ben. I haven't done a lot of reading on this, but I don't know if you have. Is this, there's going to be a chip in the footy, and we're going to be able to track the path of it, whether it's across the goal line, etc. What do you think about all this technical innovation?
I don't know how they're going to do it. I imagine there's a little microchip inside the ball, the air conveyance, and that sends little messages to a computer. That just sort of shows where the ball's gone over the line. Has it passed the line? Has it been touched? I don't know. Was there a little nick? Maybe we'll see Schnicko on the AFL coverage or AFLW coverage, a little Schnicko meter, that kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see. It'd be nice to see the trajectory that, like in the cricket, where you see the flight of the ball and then it sort of deviates, and then it might make the coverage a little bit more interesting. But I don't know if the fans will have a lot of confidence for the first few years in the technology. But good to see they're trying something. I'm always open to new things. That could be
Yeah,
interpreted
absolutely.
very
I'd
interestingly, but anyway, we'll keep
That's
moving
right.
on.
That's right. Leave that one through to the keeper. I would love a broadcast where you could put on, say, if they've got the ball tracking, that you can actually see sort of like the flight path that each team, is taking when they're moving the ball. Like you imagine if you could switch it in real time on a streaming service, a streaming service that allowed you these sort of options, where you could click on, Geelong kicks, and it just brings up, almost like all that graphic over the top of the game, where it's like, this is where Geelong has moved the ball so far by foot. You could switch it to hand. Where's Geelong's intercept possessions taken? I love watching footy the normal way, but I also think there'd be something cool about, is there different ways that we can present stats to the viewer in real time that helps them understand the game better? I think in all sports we could benefit a lot from that. Because sometimes I think people are working with the information without context. I'm talking about the fans from that point of view, watching and, you're getting, the Cats have had 145 uncontested possessions or whatever. It's like that number in isolation doesn't have to mean a lot. But if you can show where that is, occurring, how it's occurring, what it's leading to, what it's allowing them to do, that sort of stuff excites me, because I think a more informed sporting public is a more entertaining sports conversation. We can get away from just like drop player X.
I'd love to, for everyone and us as well, to put some thoughts into what footy looks like in 20 years' time into a little YouTube time capsule. We'll bury it somewhere in the paddock at your place or somewhere in the backyard. Or we just write it on a piece of paper and then, I don't know. That's probably no good. That's gone. I was going to say put it in the fire. But no, let's do a little time capsule. It reminds me when I was a younger man, a 12 or 13-year-old, I'd draw a picture of Gary Hocking, from the Geelong Advertiser. I must have clipped it out and copied it, and then I had a robot for a head for him. And I said, "This is future footy. We're playing with robots." Clearly, I hadn't thought it through too well. I don't think that's in the future. I don't think that's on the cards, Jake. But yeah, we'll start with microchips, and we'll see where that takes us. Maybe we will. Maybe
Hey,
we'll have
robots can't get concussed. So maybe that's where we're going. Bedford wouldn't have got 3 weeks if he was slinging the Terminator to the turf. Let's wrap it up there. As I said, the top bigs who make this show possible. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in publicly on YouTube as well. We'll keep sprinkling some of these online so you can see what the Patreon stuff is all about. If you want to see the rest of it, go on over and start a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew on Patreon. Just a reminder of what's coming up in the week on the Hoops Crew. You've got your VFL. Oh, let's start earlier than that, Jake. Thursday night, it'll be a Chaps preview pod as the Cats take on the Dogs. We'll have a Saturday or a Friday VFL show. I'm making an absolute meal of this. Friday, we'll have a VFL men's preview show. Saturday, there's going to be a lot. There'll probably be a VFL recap show. There'll be a post-game live show on YouTube after the Cats and Doggies get done. Might even be an instant reaction there as well. Monday night, we'll be back for the recap pod on the Chaps. It's most days. Stuff everywhere on the Hoops Crew. So thanks very much for watching, listening, subscribing, etc.
Thanks, everyone. And I think you're going to mumble your words towards the end there, Jake. Do it at the end of the show when there's only 10% of people watching still. That's probably the best time to do it. The best 10%, I should say, if you're still here at the 1 hour mark.
The legends. All right. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate your support in all the forms it arrives to us in. Until next time, go Cats!
Go Cats!